House from Nintendo News, bringing Nintendo history, the old school and the new school. You may think you know Nintendo. They're a video game company that started in the 1980s. You would be wrong. They were a game and toy company that started in the 1880s in Japan. They were created as Nintendo Kopai in 1889 by Fusajiro Yamuchi. They made Hanafuda playing cards in Japan and then a little bit later in the US. But they made more than playing cards. They also made such toys as the Love Tester and the Ultra Hand. But in 1970, they decided to make video games. Their first video game was the Color TV game. It only ever came out in Japan. And basically, it was a game that you would plug into your television and you would play it. And there was only one game on each console. Later on, they made another console. It's a handheld, the Game & Watch, that is similar to the Color TV game, in which you would have one game on each thing. It also had a built-in clock, so you could know what time it was. Now, for a Nintendo TV exclusive with the Super Mario.
Hello, it's me, Mario. And this news reporter guy over here wanted me to tell you a little bit about the history of Nintendo. So I'm going to talk about the NES years, or in Japan, the family computer. So basically, this thing came out, and I was invented on it. It's my birthplace. And it was really good. I liked it. But I guess maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia. But it was a really good console. In fact, here I am, right here. This sold us so much, and I got so much money. Woohoo! This thing was a great. Everybody played it. Woohoo! Oh, that is a thing. People played it on this. Or, well, maybe not this one, but... And here's what it looked like in the US. This one has Duck on it too. Woohoo! This one is way more common than the one with just Mario Brothers, I believe. So yeah, that's a cool. Not only that, but this guy, he helped me make money. Woohoo! But it's not all about money. This guy saved the video games in a way. Basically, he was introduced to Nintendo as a toy. What you would do is you would get him, and he would play Nintendo with you as a toy on games like, what was it? Stack Up and something else. Basically, he would play Nintendo with you with just 2 games, but that's fine. What had happened was, I think, like 2 years ago or so, Atari had ruined the video game industry by making bad games on their console. And, well, Rob came in as a toy and made kids think, well, Nintendo's not a video game, it's a toy. It can't be too bad. And then they got Rob, they played video games. Woohoo!
Thanks for that exclusive interview, Mario. Now, I know you gotta get back to that castle, save Peach. Anyway, the next console made by Nintendo was the Super Nintendo. It had 16-bit graphics, an upgrade from the previous 8-bit graphics. There was also originally going to be an attachment for the Super Nintendo called the Super Disc. This attachment would have allowed to play CD games on the SNES. Then, they changed it to a whole new console called the PlayStation. It was planned to use both SNES cartridges and a CD-based technology called CD-ROM/XA. But Nintendo decided to go behind Sony's back and make a deal with Philips for their CD technology and the ability and giving Philips the ability to use Nintendo licensed characters in their games. This didn't go out very well as the games weren't very good in general. Sony later removed the ability to play SNES games on the PlayStation and released it. The next console by Nintendo was the Nintendo 64. This brought 3D to Nintendo with polygons. 3D wasn't really new, but the Nintendo 64 upgraded this 3D. The Nintendo 64 also had packs, such as the expansion pack, the transfer pack, and the rumble pack. These allowed for upgrades to the N64 that you wouldn't be able to do previously without these. There was also an attachment for the N64 called the disk drive. It was used to play games with disc games. There were only 10 games released for this, and you were only able to get these if you lived in Japan. They didn't go very well. The next console was the GameCube, the first console to use discs without any sort of attachment or anything. It had some weird marketing in which there was a contest to see what you would do for GameCube. One guy, shaved bald, painted themselves blue, and put a leaf on their head to look like a Pikmin, and ate a bowl of worms and crickets. He won a GameCube, a Game Boy Advance, several games, and $5,000. Next in line was the Wii. The Wii had motion controls to where you could shake the Wii remote to do stuff using the sensor bar. This got Nintendo into some legal issues with Philips, Triton, and IA Labs. Philips succeeded. Even so, the Wii sold like hotcakes. People ended up throwing their controller at the TVs though, which is generally not a good idea as it broke the TV. Wii remotes also had an attachment called the nunchuck, so that you could have both the remote and a second thing with a stick on it, so you could move better in games. The Wii brought the Virtual Console as well, to bring back classic games from older consoles, such as the NES or the Super Nintendo, so you could play them on your Wii. Next was the Wii U. The Wii U name confused many people, making them think it was either an accessory for the Wii, or a handheld console, or something. But it was its own home console that you could have in your house. Some retailers didn't even know the difference between Wii and Wii U, saying that they were the same. Just to buy the Wii, as it was a lower price. But the Wii U was very different, as it brought HD, which the Wii did not have. It also has very good games. It is the most recent home console for Nintendo. Now, here is a short run through on the handheld consoles. Game Boy, the original Nintendo handheld console. Game Boy Color, which was a Game Boy that had color. Game Boy Advance, which had a whole new type of technology that is different from the Game Boy and Game Boy Color that could play new games. Game Boy Advance SP, which added a backlight and a folding mechanism. The DS, aka the double screen, had two screens, one on the top half and one on the bottom half. The DS Lite, a more lightweight version. The DSi, a version with cameras. The 3DS, a version with 3D technology so that you could play games in 3D. The next one was a surprise for many. The 2DS. What could a 2DS bring? Lower prices if you wanted to buy it. Basically, the 2DS was a lower price version of the 3DS so you could play the games. And then next was the new 3DS, which is a great name. The new 3DS adds like another control stick so that you could move around the camera, for example, in a lot of games. It acts as, for example, a C-stick in Smash Bros. It also adds face tracking technology so that you can look at the 3DS from different angles and still be able to view the 3D correctly. And that's the history of Nintendo. In the future, they plan many things like mobile games, Netflix TV shows, and even a possible theme park at Universal Studios. But that is the history of Nintendo.